Hello and welcome to the 91st Annual General Meeting of the Royal Scottish Country Dance Society. It is also our first virtual meeting. It was lovely to see all your messages on the chat before we began. I hope you enjoyed the photographs and recognised the tunes. I am Andrew Kellett, RSCDS Chairman, and on screen you will be seeing with me Bill Cant, our Treasurer, and Lorna Ogilvie, Chair-elect, who will be taking over from me later in the meeting. Behind the scenes are Claire McGregor, our Office Manager, and other members of staff who have made the arrangements for this virtual meeting. If you have any questions about the technology, do email them on info@rscds.org. The last time I checked, over 300 people were participating in this meeting. This includes our Honorary President, Jean Martin, and at least 160 delegates representing over 100 branches. We are therefore quorate, but it's a great shame we cannot meet together and dance together at our annual gathering in Perth. We shall try to make the best of it. The agenda and other papers relating to the meeting have been sent to delegates in advance. They have also been on our website for several weeks. If you haven't seen them, you can find them on www.rscds.org/AGM. As usual, we will be recording the AGM so other members can watch at a more convenient time for them. If you are catching up with us, you too are very welcome. To help manage the board and committee elections and the motions, we asked delegates to vote electronically in advance. 329 did so. That's a turnout of over 87%. All votes have been counted, and the results will be declared during the course of the meeting. No need to rely on projections here. I am sorry that for logistical reasons, delegates are not able to speak at this AGM. We have kept the agenda as straightforward as possible, and we invited delegates to submit questions in advance. I hope that any queries you have about the agenda items will be answered during the meeting. If not, you can always email us later. If we're in Perth, I would now give you the health and safety briefing, but I trust you can find your way out of your own house in an emergency. I hope that doesn't arise. Let's move on to item number 2. I have great pleasure in reading a message from the Society's patron, Her Majesty the Queen. Please convey my thanks to the Management Board and members of the Royal Scottish Country Dance Society for their loyal greetings sent on the occasion of their 91st Annual General Meeting, which is being held today via video conference. Your continued support is much valued, and as your patron, I send my warm good wishes to you all for a most memorable and enjoyable virtual gathering. Signed, Elizabeth R. Item number 3 is, as usual, the announcement of the Society Scrolls of Honour. Every year, the Society presents a Scroll of Honour to a very small number of members who have given truly outstanding service to the RSCDS. I would like to invite Lorna Ogilvie, Chair-elect, to announce the names of this year's recipients and read the citations. Lorna.
Due to the virtual nature of this AGM, scroll recipients have been given the choice of their scrolls being presented at an upcoming branch event or receiving them in person at next year's AGM in Perth. Citation for James Healy. James Healy, known to us as Jim, is a former RSCDS Chairman and Board Member. He will be presented with his scroll by Richmond, North Yorkshire branch at a local event. Jim gained his teaching certificate in 1992 and taught classes in Perthshire and Dundee. He was a founder member of Milan Scottish Dancers. Within Perth and Perthshire branch, Jim served as Chairman, Vice Chairman, Secretary and Treasurer and produced the first branch newsletter in 1993. Jim served on the General Purposes Committee and as Honorary Archivist on Membership Services Committee, of which he was convener. He pioneered the involvement of branches worldwide in selecting dances for new books and was instrumental in standardising terminology when RSCDS dances were revised. Throughout his service to the RSCDS, Jim used his considerable financial expertise to the benefit of the Society. Jim Healy is awarded the Scroll of Honour for his outstanding service to both his branch and the Society. Next slide, please. Citation for Marjorie McLaughlin. Marjorie will be presented with her scroll at a San Diego branch event. Marjorie started dancing in 1964 in her father's class in Ohio, before moving to San Francisco, where she served on both the Asilomar and branch committees for many years. She gained her teacher's certificate in 1987. Following a move to San Diego, Marjorie ran the branch demonstration team for over 10 years and was branch chair from 2007 to 8. A respected leader, she led the Southern California regional workshops on 6 occasions. An active supporter of TAC, Marjorie has been involved with TAC Summer School and currently edits their newsletter for the 2nd time, having also done so from 1998 to 2003. Marjorie has been a guest teacher throughout North America and also in New Zealand, Japan, and Austria. She has also become an expert on Scottish country dance history, researching many original manuscripts. Marjorie is awarded the Scroll of Honour for her service to the Society, reflecting a love of dancers, music, musicians, and history, whilst aiming for excellence in all she does. Next slide, please. Citation for Fiona Miller. Fiona will be presented with her scroll in person at the AGM in Perth in 2021. She has taught at Lethbridge Scottish Country Dance Club for over 30 years and been an active member of Medicine Hat, Alberta branch. Her love of dance and its heritage has led to invitations to teach at workshops and summer schools in both Canada and the United States. Fiona has held several positions on the Executive Committee of the Scottish Country Dance Teachers Association Canada, TAC, and is currently its past chairman. Appreciating that the Society's long-term future requires new, well-trained, qualified teachers, she has worked tirelessly on the candidate courses at TAC Summer School and led a Dancing Achievement Award Assessors course in Calgary in 2019, resulting in 12 new North American assessors. Fiona is recognised as being instrumental in leading the TAC committee and members calmly and with persistence through the challenging financial times in 2017. She has also promoted the work of TAC to the wider RSCDS community, in particular through her presentations in relation to the John Drury project. Fiona is awarded the Scroll of Honour for her enthusiasm, hard work, and dedication to maintaining the high standards of the Society in many areas. Next slide, please. Citation for Ian Muir. Ian will receive his scroll at a Berks Hants Surrey Borders branch event. As music director since 2014, Ian is well known in the RSCDS world. He has been involved in dance music for over 50 years, serving his apprenticeship with McBain's band and eventually forming his own Craigallachie Scottish dance band. His philosophy has been that playing must be enjoyable and that the music is as good to listen to as to dance to. Through courses at day, weekend, summer and winter schools, new young musicians have been encouraged by Ian, and he has run such classes in New Zealand, Australia and Russia. Many of his compositions have been adopted for Society and branch publications. Ian has overseen the recording of RSCDS CDs and their digitisation. He has developed teaching tracks for books 49 to 52 and the Unit 2 teaching exam. Since the advent of COVID-19 and the abrupt halt to all live music and dancing, Ian has played a key role in the Dance Scottish at Home team, who have entertained members both weekly and as part of the summer celebration, which included contributions from postponed summer schools around the world. Ian's podcasts have involved many of his music colleagues and undoubtedly educated dancers into a greater understanding of the variety of playing styles and challenges of the music they dance to. Ian is awarded the Scroll of Honour in gratitude for his contribution to the Society, both as music director and during the last 7 months as part of the Dance Scottish at Home team. Next slide, please. Citation for Ron Wallace. Ron will receive his scroll at a San Francisco branch event. Ron earned his teaching certificate in 1977 and has gained an international reputation as an inspiring teacher and mentor. He has taught at workshops and schools throughout North America, Europe, Russia, Asia, and Australia, in addition to winter school in Pitlochry and summer schools at St Andrews and TAC. Ron currently teaches 6 days a week, not just Scottish country dancing, but also men's Highland and ladies step. His classes include those specifically aimed at younger and older dancers, including children on the autistic spectrum. Recognised as an RSCDS examiner in 2010, Ron was involved in 2013 in the revision of the manual. He was invited to be one of the first DAA assessors and has since assessed dancers at all levels. In nominating Ron for the scroll, his branch highlights his contribution in tutoring hundreds of prospective teachers in candidate classes over the years. He is also a dance deviser, a piper, a band player, as well as a demonstration choreographer. Ron is awarded the Scroll of Honour for his dedication and commitment to Scottish country dancing and music for more than 50 years. Next slide, please. Citation for Marilyn Watson. Marilyn will accept her scroll in person at the AGM in Perth in 2021. Marilyn has been involved with RSCDS for the last 60 years as a teacher, examiner, festival adjudicator, and medal test and DAA assessor. She chaired Bournemouth branch for nearly 30 years and served on both the Executive Council and twice on Youth Services Committee. Gaining her teaching certificate at summer school in St Andrews, she has taught Bournemouth branch classes for 32 years, as well as day and weekend classes globally. Additionally, she has run local teaching certificate classes. With a particular interest in young people and children, Marilyn has trained teams for festivals, competitions, and demonstrations. Her teams have danced in the Albert Hall for Scottish Tattoos and on the BBC Come Dancing programme. As a member of the Youth Services Committee, she pushed for the age of the teaching certificate candidates to be lowered and contributed to the introduction of the St Andrews Junior Summer School in 2017. Marilyn is awarded the Scroll of Honour for her exceptional contribution to the work of the Society and her development of young dancers. Next slide, please. Citation for Ruby Wilkinson. Ruby will receive her scroll in person at the AGM in Perth in 2021, which is most appropriate as she started her dancing in Perth aged 5. She has danced with demonstration teams in Perth, Manchester, Glasgow, and Stirling. Gaining her teaching certificate in 1973, she has taught at all levels, both in the UK and overseas, in addition to summer school at St Andrews. For more than 20 years, she has taught children's classes in Edinburgh and the Borders. Apart from dancing in music festivals for over 40 years, she has entered many children's teams and become an adjudicator and medal test assessor. Ruby served as Deputy Director of Summer School for 3 years and as RSCDS Schools Director from 2013 to 2015. Ruby is awarded the Scroll of Honour in recognition of her dedication to both the Society and Scottish country dancing over many years, where she ensured that dancers were encouraged, had fun, and felt included. Next slide, please. Citation for Angela Young. Angela will receive her scroll in person at the AGM in Perth in 2021. Angela started dancing at a very young age in her native Aberdeen. She began playing for local classes while still at school, before joining summer school staff in St Andrews in 1987, where she is still involved 32 years later, teaching classes and tutoring on the musician's course. More recently, she has also taught and played at winter school. For over 20 years, Angela contributed to London branch as a musician, teacher, and demonstration dancer, organizer, and choreographer. She founded a children's class, teaching it for 10 years, as well as running youth workshops, and she was on the London branch committee, becoming chair in 2011. She is an adjudicator and medal test assessor and served on the E&T committee from 2013 to 2016. Angela's teaching, dancing, and musicianship is recognised worldwide, resulting in invitations to teach in New Zealand, North America, Europe, and Japan. She promotes high standards whilst emphasising the social side of Scottish country dancing. Over the past 7 months, she has played a crucial role in the Dance Scottish at Home team, not only teaching and playing, but assisting with the overall production. During the week of a summer celebration, she linked dancers around the world, in addition to contributing to teaching the lilt. Without her technical skills these evenings, which so many enjoyed, would not have been possible. Angela is awarded the Scroll of Honour for her dedicated service to the Society as a teacher and musician, and her recent key contribution to Dance Scottish at Home.
Thank you very much indeed, Lorna, and I'm sure everyone attending this meeting will join me in congratulating all the recipients of this year's scroll. Each one is very much deserved. Thank you to them all. Item 4 on the agenda are apologies for absence. Apologies have been received from 2 former chairmen, Irene Bennett and Helen Russell. No apologies were received from branches. Moving on to item 5, which are the minutes of the previous AGM on the 2nd of November 2019. The minutes of the last meeting were sent to delegates 6 weeks ago. They have also been on the website for the same amount of time. There have been no requests for changes to be made to them. Margaret Sanders, Glasgow branch, has proposed that the minutes be adopted as an accurate record of that meeting. And this motion has been seconded by Simon Wales of London branch. 304 delegates voted in favour of the motion. There were no votes against, with 25 abstentions. I declare, therefore, that the minutes of the meeting on the 2nd of November 2019 are adopted as an accurate record. An authorised signature will be added to the minute book at the earliest opportunity. Before moving on to the trustees' report and accounts, I would like to make a few remarks because we are meeting in the middle of a crisis. It might not feel like a crisis because, unfortunately, we've become accustomed to living like this, online, socially distanced, and not dancing together. But for an organisation that exists to dance and to promote dancing, this is indeed a crisis. I believe so far the RSCDS has managed pretty well, and I'm sure we shall continue to do so. But the longer we go without dancing, the more serious the situation will become. If you read the trustees' report or the summary report on the website, you will see that back in March, the Society was in good health. For the second year in a row, membership had increased, albeit by modest numbers. New branches were being formed. Events were being run successfully. Branches and groups were very active, and our finances were sound. The arrival of coronavirus turned our world upside down. Dancing stopped, events had to be cancelled, and consequently a huge hole appeared in our budget. Difficult decisions had to be taken to reduce central costs. Some of our staff were put on furlough, and last month, with deep regret, the board made 2 members of staff redundant, Julia Parr and Mari Marshall. I would like to thank both Julia and Mari for their hard work on behalf of the Society. And I must also pay tribute to all the staff, expertly led by Claire McGregor, for their flexibility and dedication in keeping the office running in these very difficult times. I don't think anything has been missed, and the whole operation runs remarkably smoothly. Thank you very much indeed to all the staff. Since the start of lockdown, it has been important to keep members, and indeed all Scottish dancers and musicians, connected with each other and engaged somehow in Scottish dance. We have already recognised Angela Young and Ian Muir for their tremendous achievement in producing Dance Scottish at Home, both the newsletter and the podcast. Your feedback shows the popularity of these publications, and Angela and Ian deserve the accolades. But the production of Dance Scottish at Home and the summer celebration has involved a large number of people. The committee conveners, Peter Knapman, Jana Stausberg and Anne Taylor, our staff, the teachers who welcome us into their home every week, the musicians who contribute to the podcast, the members who devise puzzles and quizzes, David Queen, who played a big part in the summer celebration. They have all worked very hard on our behalf, and I ask you to give them a round of Zoom applause. On top of all that effort, a surprising amount of usual society business has continued. More resources were added to the website. The magazine maintained its usual high standard. As an aside, I do know that some of you were not happy about the decision to distribute the magazine electronically, and you have your opportunity to comment on that in the communication survey currently underway. All the management committees and working groups have remained active. Take a look at the back page of the summary report. Publications and recordings are being planned. Global Youth Week happened. We even ran a Unit 1 exam last month. But what has been truly impressive since normal life was stopped has been the way that branches, groups, members everywhere have responded to the crisis, staying in touch with each other, running online events, experimenting with COVID-secure dancing when conditions allowed, and most important, planning for a time when we return to social dancing. This local activity is vital. We will come back from this crisis when the situation allows, but the strength of our recovery will not be determined by Coach Crescent. It depends on you in your branches. It depends on branches organising events, teachers taking classes, new dancers and members being recruited, new teachers, instructors and musicians being trained. We must all be ready to rebuild our activities when the time comes. What I have seen over recent months, the continuing commitment, the hard work, the imagination, above all the spirit shown by the board and committees and by our staff, but most importantly by branches, dancers and musicians, convinces me that the RSCDS will come back strongly. The society will thrive and we will dance again together. Thank you for your commitment and for your support of the RSCDS. We're now going to move on to item 7, which is the trustees' annual report and accounts. This is going to be proposed by Bill Cant, our treasurer, who will first give a brief presentation on both the report and the accounts. Over to you, Bill.
Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. This document is the trustees' report and financial statements for the Society for the year to 31st March 2020. They were approved by the Management Board on the 27th of June and duly signed by the auditors on the 1st of July. In this document, all 44 pages of it that we are looking to approve this afternoon. It has been available on the RSCDS website since July, and I do not intend to go through it in detail. The first 12 pages provide details about the Society's achievements and activities throughout the year. If you have not already read these pages, I would encourage you to do so. That is followed by the audit report and then 28 pages of financial detail. Later in my presentation, I will refer to the recently issued summary of RSCDS activities, which is also on the website, and I refer to page 5. The results for the year ended 31st March are shown on page 16 and show, buried in the middle of the schedule, that the Society reported a deficit of £46,717 compared to the 2019 surplus of £47,504. This significant turnaround was anticipated and mentioned at this time last year and reflects the less financially successful summer school, ongoing investment in website capacity, and the fact that 2019 benefited from a significant legacy. At this point, my report would normally continue to compare the financial numbers to the previous year, but that was pre-COVID-19. The dancing world has changed, stopped, but and as Andrew has said, we believe that it is more useful for members to be aware and of how we believe the current pandemic affects the finances of the Society. Therefore, I now refer to the schedule, which is part of the recently issued activities summary. It summarises the financial activities of the Society for the last year to 31st March on the left-hand side, and these numbers are compared to the Society's revised budget for the year to 31st March 2021, which are on the right-hand side. The numbers are detailed in the format of the Treasurer's report and of the Trustees' report and financial statements. The budget is normally prepared to cover the general fund, but in order to facilitate the reasonable comparison of this budget covers all of the Society's activities and shows on the bottom line an anticipated budget deficit of 170,452 compared to the 2020 actual deficit of 46,770. As I say, these numbers are shown on the bottom line of the schedule. That budget figure requires some explanation. So, starting at the top, we never budget for donations and legacies, and we reduce the anticipated investment income as companies reduce their dividends. The reduced subscription income reflects the recent subscription reduction implemented to encourage the recruitment by branches and a modest reduction in membership numbers. Under charitable activities, there are yawning gaps where in the past summer school and winter school income would have been shown. Similarly, it was anticipated that sales of books and CDs would be hit by the lack of summer school and the closure of the office. As a result, the total income is budgeted to fall from 818,000 to 230,000. Obviously, the cancellation of summer schools and the autumn gathering mean that there are no expenses related to these events. But what the Society has lost is the significant financial contribution from these events. The cost of the magazine was reduced as we anticipated distributing 2 editions of the magazine electronically to save money in these difficult times. The support costs are dominated by staff costs, where we anticipated and have benefited from the UK government's furlough scheme. Andrew has referred to the fact that 2 members of staff have been made redundant. but the financial benefit will not really be felt until next year. The depreciation charge will be similar to previous years as we write off the value of the website. Elsewhere, miscellaneous expenses, which cover stationery and printing and heating and telephone, were reduced for the budget. Some governance costs are unavoidable, but the budget anticipated reduced travel. This budget shows that while COVID has caused a significant loss in income, it is difficult and painful to reduce costs to mitigate that impact. The result is a budgeted deficit of 139,000 for the operations of the Society in the General Fund. And with the additional depreciation charge to the Fixed Assets Fund, gives an anticipated accounting deficit of 137,000 compared to the 2020 deficit of 46,770. The Management Board have now reviewed draft numbers for the first 6 months of the current year. These numbers are not shown on the schedule. Predictably, they show a reduction in subscription income, which is usually collected by branches when the societies start, when classes start. So it is vital that branches make membership returns to the society, even if they are only partial returns. Sales of books and CDs are below even the low budget because the shop has been closed, although it is now reopened. On the more positive note, we are very grateful for the donations received, which are not budgeted for, and investment income has held up reasonably well. Actual staff costs are similar to budget, and miscellaneous expenses were down further, while equipment and software costs rose with additional Zoom costs. Governance costs were lower than budget, as there has been no travelling to meetings. Overall, the draft deficit for the 6-month period for the General Fund was 64,342, and that is not unreasonable compared to the budgeted General Fund deficit for the full year of 139,000. This year, and possibly next year, will be difficult years for the Society's finances. Prudent management of our predecessors means that we have reserves to help us survive the COVID-induced dancing famine. However, we do need to respond positively to the Society's appeal, and even more importantly, retain members so that we are ready to start dancing again in what we hope is the not too distant future. I realise that this format of virtual AGM makes it impossible for you to ask me any questions. And my usual invitation to you to have a word with me after the meeting is not going to work either. However, I would be delighted if you were to email me any questions or comments to treasurer@rscds.org. Therefore, I would like to propose that the meeting adopt the trustees' report and financial statements of the Society for the year ended 31st March 2020. This motion is seconded by Neil Copeland from the Perth and Perthshire branch. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Bill, for that presentation. Most informative. Delegates have been voted on the motion, 312 for and none against, with 17 abstentions. And I am pleased to declare that the trustees' annual report and accounts to the 31st of March 2020 are duly adopted. Before moving on, I would like to take this opportunity to thank Bill for his outstanding management of the Society's finances. We may have lost £170,000 this year, but Bill has done a brilliant job. Not only is he on top of the figures, but he gives sensible, level-headed advice and maintains a sense of perspective and humour, even in the midst of a crisis. Thank you, Bill. And I would also like to echo his comments about our predecessors on the management board. Their prudent management and governance of the society in previous years is one reason why we will weather this storm. Item 8 on the agenda is the appointment of our auditor. And I call upon Bill, once more, our treasurer, and from Dundee branch, to propose the appointment of Alexander Sloan, Chartered Accountants, as auditor.
Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, Alexander Sloan Chartered Accountants have been the Society's auditors for many years. They audit the report and financial statements as prepared by our accountants, MHA Henderson Logie. Alexander Sloan have proved to be very professional, work very well with our staff and management, and this split of duties continues to provide enhanced governance for the Society to the benefit of the members and the trustees. Therefore, I would like to propose that the Society appoints Alexander Sloan, Chartered Accountants, as auditor. The motion is seconded by Joanna Strausberg from the Central Germany branch.
Thanks again, Bill. And delegates have voted unanimously by a majority of 297 to none in favour of the motion. And I confirm, therefore, that Alexander Sloan, Chartered Accountants, are duly appointed as auditor for the coming year. There is one more motion on the agenda. At each AGM, we are required to set the annual subscription for RSCDS membership for the coming year. This motion has been proposed by the Management Board, and the Board has asked Bill to speak on its behalf. As you can see, the motion is seconded by Anne Taylor, also the Management Board, and a member of Banffshire branch. So it's back to you again, Bill.
Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, at this time last year, I seconded the motion that gave branches the opportunity to retain £2 of the subscription. When the Management Board were discussing the revised budget that you have seen early this afternoon, there was a lively discussion regarding the membership subscription. Should the subscription remain at £18 for a second year, or should it be increased? There were valid arguments were made for both increasing the subscription in face of the budgeted deficit, or to hold the subscription at its current level to encourage branches to retain and recruit more members. Eventually, it was decided that in the light of the pandemic, retention and recruitment was more important than ever. Once we are allowed to return to dancing, the Society will need the branches to get membership growing again. The branches are in the best position to achieve this objective by using this money to subsidise beginners' classes and use the musicians and their most inspirational teachers. Therefore, the Management Board proposes that for the year from 1 July 2021, the basic full annual subscription shall be maintained at £18, with other membership subscriptions based pro rata on this amount. As Andrew has said, the motion is seconded by Anne Taylor from the Banffshire branch.
Thank you, Bill. Delegates have voted overwhelmingly by a majority of 307 to 2 in favour of the motion. I am pleased to declare the motion duly adopted. Item 10 on the agenda is the confirmation of Lorna Ogilvie as our chairman. But before moving on to that, I would like to take this opportunity to thank those members retiring from the Management Board and committees at this AGM. From the Management Board, we are losing Linda Gall, Teresa McVarish-Clark, and Sue Ronald. From Youth Services, Margaret Lambourne and Olga McIntosh. From Education and Training, Deborah Leary and Chris Ronald. From Membership Services, Peter Avery and our Music Director, Ian Muir. Also stepping down from the Finance and Governance Advisory Panel is Valerie Strachan. So too is the editor of Scottish Country Dancer, Jimmy Hill, who has been our magazine's guiding light since its inception. To all of you relinquishing a role in the RSCDS, many thanks for giving your time and talent for the benefit of Scottish dancing and for our members. You all deserve a virtual round of Zoom applause. I have also served my time as chairman. Despite the problems of recent months, it has been a wonderful 2 years, and I thank you all and the Society for giving me the opportunity to serve in that role. Although I am stepping down at a time of uncertainty, I remain optimistic about the future of the Society. I have great confidence in you, the members, the bedrock of the Society, and I also have huge confidence in Lorna Ogilvie, the incoming chair. She brings to the job a lot of valuable experience from her long-standing membership of the RSCDS and from a very successful professional career. She has many management and leadership skills. She is a talented organiser and she has the capacity for hard work, which she will probably need. As I take off this chain of office, it is my pleasure to confirm Lorna Ogilvie as the next chair of the Royal Scottish Country Dance Society and therefore chair of this meeting. Lorna.
Thank you, Andrew. And in accepting the virtual chain of office, it gives me much pleasure to present Andrew with his ex-chairman's badge, sadly also virtually. It is currently in Coates Crescent, but will be delivered in person when restrictions allow. It now falls to me to thank Andrew on your behalf for his 2 years serving as RSCDS chairman. As previous chairmen attending today know, it is very difficult for members to totally appreciate the high level of commitment and the hard work that is required in this role. Andrew has approached all tasks energetically and diligently. He has shown interest in every aspect of the work of the Society, linked to an attention to detail in all he does. He has faced quite unprecedented times over his 2 years as chairman, compounded in the first year prior to Claire's appointment as office manager, when he supported the staff at Coates Crescent in addition to leading the Society. Then in the last 6 months, the arrival of COVID-19 and sudden curtailment of all dancing created the most unsettling period any of us has experienced. I know that members will agree with me that Andrew has more than risen to the challenge through his input to Dance Scottish at home, the increased frequency of board meetings as we adapted to constantly changing restrictions, and the greater need for digital communication. This ensured that dancers were kept not only in touch with board decisions, but also with each other and able to enjoy virtual entertainment. I thank him for all he has done for RSCDS and for keeping the dancing family more connected than ever. It is a real honour to accept the role of RSCDS chairman for the next 2 years, but it also carries great responsibility. We all want to get back to dancing, and I personally want to give back to Scottish country dancing, which has given me a lifetime of enjoyment on the dance floor. Incredible experiences through teaching children and demonstrations, many treasured memories, and most of all, friendships. However, despite being an optimist, I am pragmatic, and I know there will be immense challenges ahead, particularly in the next 6 to 7 months. The Society will need to adapt to a new normal with a number of as yet unknowns. My role, working with the new management board, committees and working groups, supported by Claire and the office staff, will be to review and adapt the RSCDS business plan, targets to reinvigorate the Society when dancing resumes. I hope that as we start to launch the exciting plans to celebrate our centenary in 2023, that the fun and friendship aspects of Scottish country dancing will once again take centre stage. Thank you, Andrew. And we now move on to agenda item 11. Election of the Management Board. I shall announce the election results, which for this virtual meeting have been carried out electronically in advance. Firstly, Chairman-elect. It is with great pleasure that I confirm William Williamson as Chairman-elect for the next 2 years. Convener-elect of Membership Services. I am delighted to confirm Angela Young as Convener-elect for Membership Services. Convener-elect for Youth Services. Unfortunately, there have been no nominations for this post. The Management Board. There were 7 vacancies for members of the Management Board, and as a result of the votes cast, Trevor Clark, Neil Copeland and Fiona Grant will serve for 3 years, and David MacDonald, Jane Meikle and Joan Nesbitt will serve for 2 years. The board will be 1 member short, and if it is felt appropriate, an appointment may be made under the terms of Article 30 to fill this gap. We now move on to agenda item 12, the election of Management Committee members. Under Article 48, the Management Board can delegate any of its powers to a committee. There are 3 standing or Management Board committees, and I shall now announce the results of the elections to fill vacancies on each of these. Firstly, for 2 members for E&T Committee. There were 3 candidates for the 2 positions on E&T, and Olaf Olafsson and Rachel Shankland are duly elected to serve for the next 3 years. For the Membership Services Committee, there were 5 vacancies, but only 2 members stood, and so Ainsley Dunnett and Keith Rose are both elected to serve for 3 years. For Youth Services Committee, there were 2 vacancies and a single nomination. Abigail Brown is duly elected to serve for 3 years. Under the power of Article 48, the Board confirms the appointment of these members of the management committees who have been elected by the branch delegates. There are vacancies on both the Membership Services and Youth Services committees. Under the terms of Rule 16H, both committees will consider whether to make appointments to fill these vacancies. And obviously, any appointment will be subject to confirmation by the Management Board. I congratulate the successful candidates who are joining the Management Board and committees and look forward to working with you all. If you have been unsuccessful, I do hope that you will consider standing again. In addition to welcoming Fiona Grant to the Management Board, I'm pleased to announce that she is taking over as editor of Scottish Country Dancer. It is also a pleasure to welcome Luke Brady as the new music director and Elizabeth Harry, who is joining the Finance and Governance Advisory Panel. We now move to agenda item 13, the vote of thanks. Before giving the vote of thanks, I should like to announce the winners of the virtual festival. The videos are still on the website, so please do look at them after the meeting if you haven't already done so. I was personally most impressed at the ingenuity and imagination of those who sent in contributions. The challenge of working within social distancing restrictions resulted in some inspiring adaptations that we could all consider until we're back to normality on the dance floor. A big thank you and a well done to everyone who entered. In the under 16 category, the winner is Moscow Branch D Rodeo Group with their entry, The Scots and the Vikings, which had lovely props, beautiful costumes and some great ideas. In the mixed ages category, the popular vote went to Lyon Branch. It was fun and played on the theme of We All Can't Meet This Year in a really charming way. Our congratulations to both winners. The vote of thanks at previous AGM meetings has usually included all those who've contributed to the 3 days of the autumn gathering weekend. Today is very different. We're nearing the end of our first virtual RSCDS AGM. The whole event would not have been possible without a massive amount of work from Claire, our office manager, and Kat, our graphic design and media officer. They and all other staff have been working remotely, which has added to the production challenges for today. Facilitating a worldwide event such as this successfully is no mean feat. A very sincere thank you from me on behalf of all members. I also want to thank branch delegates for voting online and attending virtually. Your willingness to adapt to the digital world has been crucial for the smooth running of this event and helped us to meet our legal obligations under OSCR, the Scottish Charity Regulator. And finally, thank you to the many observers, dancers and musicians in Scotland and around the world joining us for today's AGM meeting. I do hope that everyone will stay safe in these difficult times until we can all meet again on the dance floor. And finally, we move to the final item on the agenda, the date of the next meeting. I can confirm that the date of the next meeting is Saturday, the 6th of November, 2021 in Perth. This concludes the formal meeting. However, I do hope that you will join us at 8 o'clock tonight for an autumn evening of dance, music and entertainment. And I am particularly delighted that today's scroll recipients will be contributing to this event.